got to beat too. No.
Oh, my 2 years.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you guys?
I'm sitting here being a dinosaur killing trees, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to print them all out too.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I try to keep up on my iPad, but I get lost between the two.
I know. I understand.
I officially retired from my job, so I figure I can be a dinosaur.
Like recently? Like just.
Like last Monday.
Yeah,
Recording in progress.
You were saying you were going to.
Yeah.
You really did it.
I've been saying I was going to. Like, the people at work didn't believe me. They're like, oh yeah, you've been saying that for 5 years.
You did it.
And
Hallelujah.
I just left, and it was like,
Did you tell them it was because of the big bump in pay now that you're on the Fairway City
oh
Council?
yeah,
All right, where's my Hamantash?
It's not firm
a
yet.
huge bump in
What?
pay.
It's not firm yet.
No, but
I saw that in my bank account.
See
I
you.
was like, what
I
is
can
that?
bring it. I know where you live.
I know where you live.
I'm going to try.
teeny little-
So
Oh boy,
I don't know. If
really?
I'll be, yeah, baking.
Oh boy.
Mayor, you just so you know, interesting timing on our
Did you
agenda
read
topic
it?
tonight. I just got it now.
We referenced it.
Short-term rentals.
Yeah. Very appropriate.
Yeah.
Did they mention you in there? Your
No,
name?
it was just we have it on the agenda tonight, and I thought it was. Well, how about that? Let's see what they
My wife
see what
told
they
me it was
say.
on the agenda tonight. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
All right, it's 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Fairway, Kansas. It is Monday, March 11th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. There are no announcements this evening. Nathan, has anything come up since we talked? Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the monthly reports of the standing committees. Consolidated Fire District Number 2, Chief Chick is not here this evening, so we will let his report stand as submitted. Item B, Administration and Finance. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, we actually did not receive the fire district report this month, so that's why it's not in your packet.
Okay.
For administration, we did meet on February 28th. The topics included a review
Nathan,
of the...
can you please speak into your mic?
Sure. The topics included a review of the 2023 community survey, which we will be working to get online here in the coming weeks. We discussed short-term rentals, and the revised proposed changes for that ordinance are part of new business. Are there any questions for administration? Okay, finance report. We did not have our sales tax distribution did not hit until March 1st. So if you're looking at the financials and see that we're falling or that we are behind on sales tax, it's because we did not receive a distribution in February. It arrived on March 1. So that should auto-correct when we get the March financials at the end of the month. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay. Police, Chief?
Thank you. Some things to note, reference my report, and then I'll let it stand. But I wanted to mention a few things. The first incident, I think, is worth noting that we stopped a car on the second, had a substantial amount of marijuana in it, 2 stolen firearms, and they were converted to fully automatic. They were both loaded. The individuals in the car had extensive criminal histories. and no one was hurt during that stop. I would like to mention auto thefts are on the rise within the metro right now, and mainly from unlocked vehicles and also unlocked residents. Garage doors being left open or side doors to garages have contributed to this. We had one of those. That vehicle has been recovered. It was recovered in KCK. We located a stolen auto behind the shops last month. That vehicle, we pulled in front of it, but that vehicle struck one of our patrol cars, causing very, very minor damage, thankfully, because we were running a little low on cars. We did take delivery of some of those vehicles. Anyway, in reference to that, a pursuit occurred after that, and we took both individuals into custody. The last thing I want to mention is we assisted an outside agency. It was Mission, and an individual that was very distraught, who was armed, decided that he wanted to take his own life, and to do that by suicide by officer. Our officers responded, and in fact, our officers talked that individual out of doing that. We got the firearm, and that individual got help. So they're not here this evening, but the next council meeting, I'd like to recognize those two officers that did that. He was an 18-year-old male that, just was having a hard time and made some bad choices, and he's still with us today because of our officers. Other than that, I'll let my report stand.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. And yes, let's put that on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
Okay. Public Works, Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. I will also let my report stand to submit a couple things I'd like to highlight. Our fun annual NPDES report has been submitted to the state, waiting to hear back to make sure they accept it. Other than that, I would like to point out that even though it wasn't February, we did sweep the entire city the first week of March. So that service will probably go on hiatus until probably later in April, whenever the oak trees start dropping their leaves, and then we'll make another pass through the city. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Bill? Thank you. Parks and Rec, Bryce?
Thanks, Mayor. Registration is open for the summer season, so if you need to get your pool passes or kids enrolled in camp, I think there's like 7 spots open for camp, so maybe not that so much, but a pool membership for sure. You can sign up today, and if any of the council members need a pool membership, be sure to email me before purchasing that online. The restroom project is going to hopefully wrap up this week, so SCI has been out there trying to get the scheduling software updated onto the pool house and to extend that pool house net there for the security system. So we should be operational here pretty soon. Happy to answer any questions.
Bryce, thank you to your staff for hosting the Council of Mayors for me on Wednesday. Was that just Wednesday evening? Yes, it was just Wednesday evening. But we had it out at the multi-purpose room at the pool. It was very lovely. It was a great meeting, too. Okay, any questions for Bryce? Nope. Yes, Lee.
So is the public restroom at the pool open now? Are we up and going?
So it should be open later this week after SCI gets done putting the security system
Sweet.
on there.
That's fantastic. And how did Princess Day go?
Wonderful. We had over 50 little princesses in here. We had a balloon drop from the ceiling up here and a DJ, and so we had a great time. Yeah,
That's
it was
fantastic.
very well attended.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to the monthly reports of special committees. Tree Board, Bill?
No report meeting next week.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment for consent agenda items only. I will read those into the record. The consent agenda is A, approve minutes of the previous regular city council meeting. B, approve claims and appropriations. Ordinance number 18 01, February 2024. And C, approve the Contain the Rain Best Management Practices Cost Share Program Agreement. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to make a public comment on any of the consent agenda items? If so, please come forward. Nope. Nathan, anyone online?
Mayor, if I might just make a mention that I did make some non-substantive changes to the minutes based on a conversation that you and I had, as well as I added on the last section on what was posted online, there was a blank for Mr. Haycock's closing remarks after after public comment. So I added in there that he indicated to the council that the survey was sent to 1,200 homes.
Thank you. All right. There's no one online? Okay. I will close the public comment. Consent agenda items are determined to be routine enough to be acted on in a single motion. However, this does not preclude discussion. If a council member requests, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration and a separate motion. Does any council member wish to remove any item?
Mayor, I don't wish to remove.
Yes.
I do have a question though about the cost.
Yes, Jenna? Go
About
ahead.
the cost sharing program. I think it's probably for Bill. How many households have we been able to support with that program?
I don't have the information in front of me, but it's usually 3 to 4 a year, depending. It's sometimes a tree. We've had one rain garden, probably 6 trees and other plantings.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Excuse me, Mayor, I move that we approve items A through C of the consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve items A through C of the consent agenda. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. All right, new business. Item A, we have a guest. Johnson County Commissioner Becky Fast has asked to address us this evening. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you for allowing me to present. We at the county appreciate our strong relationships with our local cities. So I served on Roland Park City Council for a number of years and worked at that time with the Fairway, and I really appreciate the relationship with the mayor. Each month I join the mayor's meeting to collaborate with the city of Fairway. So District 1 that I represent has 11 cities in it. Johnson County as a county is now like the 120th largest county in the nation. So our districts are 110,000, very large. Sedgwick and Shawnee, their districts are like 30 to 40,000. So with our growth, the commission districts become larger and larger. So the next slide, our biggest investment at the county commission is our wastewater. Johnson County just finished up the project at the Tomahawk. We were sending our sewer flow over to Missouri, and that was costing us twice the amount of doing infrastructure improvements at Tomahawk. We had completed that, and we'll have $200 million savings by Johnson County treating its own flow versus sending to Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri bills for sewer are triple that of Johnson County. Our next project is the Nelson. That's where Fairway's flow goes. And as you know, water that comes into your homes are from Water One, and water that goes out is Johnson County. And so we're in charge of treating the water that comes out of your home. The sewer infrastructure is very old in the Northeast. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of my neighbors who had to dig up their yard, replace sewer water. And so the next slide, Johnson County has a new backup prevention program, and please tell your residents about this. So if they see You know, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's sewer water or storm water in your basement, but our Johnson County Waste Department will come out and assess to assist them. So please have them call if you see water coming up, because a lot of times it's the roots in this Northeast that break the sewer lines, or they maybe connected their stormwater drains into their sewer pipes. And we're looking at a new program to help residents unhook the stormwater that often in Northeast under the old codes hooked into the sewer pipes. So this program is well used in Northeast Johnson County. Next one. So one of the new projects, infrastructure projects that we're working on is the Corinth branch. I'm always excited when I hear families say that their grandparents use Corinth branch, they use it, and their children use it. I mean, it is a well-loved library. It was the second library in Johnson County. Antioch was the first. Residents from Fairway and Prairie Village as volunteers got together and met in the shops and provided a free library in the 50s, and then the county came in and developed the Corinth branch. So it's very old. There's a lot of flooding in that branch. Parking's not great, and it's really, the infrastructure's not good. So right now they've started input sessions. The first one was the city of Prairie Village. The decision is whether to tear it down where it's at and build a new Corinth branch or move to be connected with the city of Prairie Village. And it would be with, where the YMCA or YWCA, I always forget which one it is, where that is. So it would be a collaborative Prairie Village community center and library there. That decision hasn't been made, and they're working on preliminary plans, and will be made whether they tear it down or do they work together with City of Prairie Village. And then they'll be contacting Fairway, all residents in the Northeast, to determine what services and what the library should look like. So this is several step plans. Antioch is opening at the end of March, April, and that was another collaborative relationship with Merriam. It's right next to their community center. I'm excited to see the new branch open. Next one. So I see on your agenda you have the 5 years CARS plan. The CARS is another example of a strong county relationship with our local cities. Actually, Johnson County is the only county in Kansas that has the CARS program. The other counties, when I go to the county association, they just keep it for themselves and use their gas tax money for the rural roads. Johnson County started this program in 1990, this county city match funds, and there has been times, previous commissions, not this commission, that wanted to discontinue it and use it just for the rural roads. But there is full support on this commission, but that is always something for you to look at and for future commissions. And as you can see, Fairway, and I see in your next 5-year plan, really benefits, and all of us benefit. When Fairway makes improvements to Mission, all of us in Northeast benefits by those Mission, and that's why the county developed the program. The next one. So the stormwater management, I know Bill serves on that SMAC committee. It's called SMAC for short. I attend as a liaison to some of the meetings. Several years ago, they went to watershed districts, and Northeast has a lot of creeks and watersheds. We have a lot of rain impacts in the Northeast, and I know Fairway especially has been impacted by large rain events. So it moved to a watershed district, how they fund the projects. In 2020 and 2023, Fairway received funds from the SMAC, and the goal is flood reduction, water quality improvement, and so to me, there's not enough funding to meet all the needs, and I think that's something that cities and Johnson County needs to come together at some point, because this too was developed in 1990, and our county was probably 150,000 less people in 1990. So there's just growing needs for the stormwater funds. The next one. So sustainability is, and thank you for belonging to the Contain the Rain. I know some, interesting to hear how many you have. I think it's a great program, and it's something that we at the county need to get the word out more. I think some people don't understand really what it does. We have a new program called Recycle Right that Westwood and Mission did, and it's a door-to-door program, and it leaves notes on people's recycling saying, it's not shaming them, but saying, please don't put plastic bags in your recycling. And when Westwood and Mission did it, they found just huge change in behavior by just a little helpful note. That you don't put your bowling ball in recycling. And believe me, when I went to visit the waste management site, there was people who put lobsters in their recycling, bowling balls. I couldn't believe what people thought they could get recycled by putting in the recycling container. And so that program, the county staff would train volunteers like from the city of Fairway, and then they would go door to door to educate people. The next one. So one of the big issues that we in Johnson County are going to be facing, cities and the county, is the landfill. And it's not just Johnson County, it's the region. As you can see, there's only 3 landfills in Kansas. There's 4 in Missouri. And when one landfill fills up, then it goes, like if the Missouri landfill fills up, then it goes to Kansas. And that's the regional capacity. We've been saying for a while that Johnson County has about 20 years. That's the worst case scenario, and they're saying then to 40 years for landfill capacity. Now, the issue is if these landfills fill up, where are you going to find another landfill? We're going to have to bring our trash maybe hours away, which will double our costs for our trash. And then as soon as 1 or 2 fill up, the other ones will more quickly fill up. And permitting a new landfill because it can take 5 to 10 years. So if you look at that, we have 19 years, and if 10 years of that is permitting, we are, this is my quote in the Shawnee Mission Post, that alarm bells are ringing. And so I've been pushing the county that we need to bring cities together. What do we need to do? Several years ago, the county said that you had to separate your tree limbs, your leaves, and that could be easily composted. That has really helped our landfill. Composting, food composting, we don't have a facility in Johnson County. Johnson County Health and Development, our Johnson County Health Department's looking at where could we have a facility for composting so we didn't have to bring it way to Missouri. Shawnee Mission Schools compost, and so a large percent of our landfill is food waste. And so how can we recycle that food waste and compost it? So the next one. And on there, that one picture, you see her holding up the plastic bags. So Commissioner Hanslick and I got a tour of the landfill. There's people who stand there all day and sort through the recycling because they cannot have contamination in the recycling to sell it. And so here she shows that one plastic bag, and if they would have sent that bundle of recycling, it would have been sent back to them. The good news, since COVID, there's more markets for recycling, and so more people are buying, but they still, there's workers, it's very hot in their stand all day long sorting through recycling, and that's how all of us, how can we educate people more on recycling? So we opened a new hazardous waste facility. The old one was at the Mission Waste Center, the Nelson Waste Center, and this will be much easier. It's really easy. You can just make an appointment. You can drive through, drop off your paint chemicals. There's a store there. You can get recycled chemicals, paints, the recycled. Some people bring herbicides, pesticides, and so they have a kind of a used recycle shop there too. And your light bulbs, batteries. It's really easy now that you just can drive through. It's off of 119th and 69. A little further for us, but much better facility. So the next one. So another issue that Northeast Johnson County, we have the largest number of seniors in Johnson County. and the growing senior population. We're seeing in our state in the 10 years, more people will retire than our state has ever seen. So the growing in the Kansas legislature, I heard them talk about the silver tsunami. And so we see that already with our 911 calls, our ambulance calls, and our fire calls for non-emergent care are up 11%. So as we have the growing older adult population in Northeast, how can we work together to support our seniors? Some of the programs Johnson County offers is in-home services, Meals on Wheels. A program that I worked on starting is a senior health insurance program. So when you turn 65, we have a staff member in our Department of Aging to help you decide between all the Medicare plans, which can be very confusing, and prescription drug plans to know how to sort that out. So our mental health center has some new innovative programs that we're very excited about. The Youth Crisis Residential Program. So if the Fairway Police go out to somebody's house, there's a youth that is having a mental health crisis and has needs or has gotten involved in law enforcement or justice involved in some way. This is not only a mental health, but it's also juvenile support on mental health needs. And Tanya Keys, I have to shout out to her. It's her work for the last year that's making this program possible at the DCF as Deputy Secretary. So we're so glad and excited. Instead of youth ending up in the juvenile detention center, they will get mental health and behavioral health support in this residential program. We also are opening a new crisis stabilization center. Now Fairway Police have to go up to Wyandotte County, and so that they can come. It's in Shawnee, and it will be adult residential stabilization short term to support those with mental health crisis needs. This last year, we integrated our 911 and our 988. So when you call 911, it's a mental health crisis. Instead of sending out the police, the fire, the ambulance, that they can route it, if it's clear, a mental health need, to our 988 staff, and they can dispatch mental health mobile response or talk with the Fairway Police, with your co-responder. And so that people have immediate mental health support versus, going through 911 and then you send out all these first responders to someone's front yard. So, so far, the 988, 41,000 calls, they're also working to have texting, and 40% of these are youth, is what I heard in the legislature, a large number of youth having mental health needs and using the 988 support. So the next one, public transit is always something that we've struggled with in Johnson County. We have some fixed lines, but often there's not enough usage of our fixed lines, or some that have more usage. With the World Cup and other big events, how can we increase capacity? A new program that we started was microtransit, and I've seen the Northeast has really used it. It's especially for our seniors, because that microtransit can take them to the doctor, to the pharmacy, and so it's more of a door-to-door service, and then it supplements will take them to the fixed line too. We are going to have a strategic planning next year, and we would love to have Fairway involved. Where do we go with transit? What do we do? And bringing in some experts analyzing, what is the goals of public transit in Johnson County. On housing, one of the programs that I've worked on is housing repair and weatherization. Johnson County in our Northeast, a large amount of our houses were built in the 50s, 60s. We have a lot of houses 100 years old. And so what happens for many seniors, they have no option to sell versus having some home repair services that might preserve that house for a family to move in when they leave. So we just passed some COVID funds to support a new home repair program. The home repair that we have now through the federal government, hardly any Fairway residents ever qualify because the appraisal, you have to be under $300,000. My little 824 square foot house in Roland Park is almost at $300,000. So there's very few houses that qualify for that federal program. So this program would help those above that $300,000 appraised value, people who are lower income. The other is a new eviction mediation program to support those with mental health, medical needs, with supports with utility assistance so they don't end up homeless. And then the last, our Johnson County Park System. 1 million people visit Meadowbrook Park a year. 10 million people go to Johnson County parks a year. Shawnee Mission Park is the most visited park in Kansas. And so this, now we have great weather. I encourage you to go visit Kill Creek, one of my favorite families. Children love climbing up that tower, and you can see for miles. So a lot of us don't go there in the Northeast, but it's a wonderful park, and it's really exciting. 20% of all park visits are to Meadowbrook and to Antioch Park, our Northeast County parks. So they're well visited, but there's a large number of parks like Lake Lexington, that some of us forget about it because you're traveling way out to western Kansas. That's what western Johnson County feels like. And so we want to work together with you, and I'd like to, any questions, thoughts, how I can be a stronger voice on the county commission for the city of Fairway.
Any questions? Jenna?
Thank you, Commissioner Fass. That was super helpful. I had two questions about the recycle right.
Yeah.
What do cities need to do if they're interested?
Yeah, so I can hook you up with our staff member who would come and present, and then he would tell you about a lot of it is the city would need to find volunteers, and then Johnson County would support them and train them and help them with the process.
We use our own volunteers.
Yeah, in the beginning, our county staff did it to pilot it, but now because Prairie Village has done about half of it. And Prairie Village was, and Fairway's smaller, so it probably won't take very many volunteers.
Okay, and my other question was about transportation. I thought last year there was some kind of pilot program that was kind of like a public Uber. What's going on with that program?
Yeah, and that's that microtransit. Okay. And that's the one. You go to the Johnson County Transit website. And I think a lot of residents that don't know about it,
right.
and then you have to have the app. So it's the app based, but you can also, if you're a senior, call and they'll come pick you up. And it's not 24/7, but it's still it's just growing rapidly, and that's another challenge for the county because it's much more expensive than fixed routes. Because it's curb to curb program.
And is there eligibility to do that, or can I just sign up for that today?
No, you can. If you're low income, then you can. You don't have to. There's a fee, I think $5 each way, depending. But if you go a longer ways, it's more.
Thank you.
Gary.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. My question is about the new stabilization center that you mentioned. I didn't hear a date, and also, are there beds in there, and if so, how many?
Yeah, so the goal is 72 hours. That's like the Wyandotte program. I think it's like 10. I forgot. It's not a large program because it's supplementing the one in Wyandotte County. And we already have for substance abuse or residential, and it's not a large number of beds, but it complements that. So if your police would find someone with mental illness that's homeless, they could bring them to our crisis stabilization. I know families who call our mental health center. It's very difficult to find a bed in a hospital. It's basically Shawnee Mission Medical Center that has inpatient psychiatric care. And so that is often a place, and it's a triage and referral to help Johnson County Mental Health find them a permanent support services in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Lee?
Good evening, Commissioner. Thank
Yeah.
you for being here. I have a question. I recently took something called a trash recycling and composting services survey, and I'm just curious.
Oh, through the Johnson County? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please
Yeah.
do it.
He's the one.
I'm the one. I'm the guy.
Send it out to everyone.
So we've been through a similar process recently, and so I'm just curious when you'll be hearing the results from that and what you think might, what actionable items you might hope to happen or have happen as a result of the survey.
Well, so one of the Mid-America Regional Council is putting in for a national EPA grant, and that would be if people rate composting as high. Also I know Prairie Village looked at having curbside composting, and then the residents didn't seem that interested. I think, and then the cost was the other reason. So I think it's to, would people be interested in, composting? If we had a drop-off, a lot of communities have drop-off centers, and we've talked about like at farmers markets. And so I think it's definitely to give direction on what our resident priorities. The county submits a 5-year solid waste management plan to the state, but we are really going to have to work with our cities to address that these landfills are filling up. And so I think one of the issues is, what is the interest of residents on composting and recycling more? Would they be willing, to change some behaviors?
Well, kudos for doing it, and it'll be interesting to see what comes back.
Yep.
Anyone else? Thank you, Becky.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Bill, will you take just a couple minutes? Becky had mentioned that the cities need to work together for, on the watershed, and I know we have an interlocal collaboration going on. Will you, for the benefit of the new council people, will you explain what you've been doing the last few years?
For SMAC or in general for?
In general, for the watershed.
I'm currently the chair of Watershed 1, which is what our watershed is in. We're going to have a meeting this summer where COVID really kind of slowed us down. Currently, all watersheds are going through a watershed master plan. We've had the draft reports. The final reports are supposed to be done this summer. But I took part in 2015, I believe, when SMAC and CARS looked at their business plans and decided to see if they wanted to continue the way they were with cities introducing their own projects or move to a watershed-based approach. And we felt it would be best to move to a watershed-based approach, which is the approach that we're all using now. I'm also the vice chair, I guess, of the entire SMAC committee, working with Johnson County staff. And Becky, I've been meaning to send you an email. I can't tell you how valuable the Johnson County Public Works staff is, Lee Kellenberg in particular. Lee actually went out of the way whenever I was submitting our CARS 5-year plan. It's all done online right now. There was some glitch, and imagine that, an IT glitch. And it's supposed to kick us back emails with PDFs of our form that we submitted. And he said, I heard from other people they weren't. You didn't ask for them, but here's your PDFs. He didn't have to do that. It wasn't requested. I PDF'd the email, so it wasn't a big deal. But that's just the type of service that we get from Johnson County Public Works. But we've been diligently working to look at this more globally. There hasn't been a lot of flashy things done yet. It's all in the trenches right now, building the foundation for what we're going to be using in the future.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Becky. All right, item B. Consider CARS 5-year plan. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. This is our annual CARS 5-year plan that we submit to the county and sign the resolution. This allows us to be eligible for funding for all our projects that we have listed here. We actually have 2 next year, one that was added kind of late as a joint project between Westwood and Roland Park along 53rd, where 53rd meets Mission Road and turns north. We're going to include that little intersection there and do some little bit of modifications there to hopefully help with traffic in that area. Spoke with one of the residents that lived on it, and he's like, "Ooh, that's a pretty good idea." So looking forward to the low-hanging fruit that we can get from that project. But be happy to answer any questions. This is standard. We pass it every year, and this just allows us to get the funding. We've submitted all the documentation. The last thing we need to do is submit the signed resolution.
All right. Council, is there questions for Bill or discussion? Jenna?
Yes, quick question, Bill. Is there coordination between, I know Mission and Row are often like the 2 main routes that go up and down, and this past year there's been a few times where we've had construction happening on both at the same time, so you'd have to kind of go like that to get north and south. Is there coordination when we're doing a lot of Mission Road with the work that's being done on Row at the same time?
What work on Mission Road?
Sorry, so when we get to 2027, when we're doing work on Mission and we're closing it off, is there, or can there be conversations about the work that's being
We
done?
always do. Yeah, sometimes, look, the work you're referring to on Row was an emergency sewer repair. Couldn't have helped it.
Yeah.
Couldn't have diverted traffic onto another lane because you would have been, you would have had to divert them into oncoming traffic through Johnson Drive. That didn't seem like a safe idea. So sometimes emergencies happen, and it is cumbersome for the traveling public, but not a lot we can do whenever a force main breaks.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I just figured I'd ask.
But yes, yeah, we always try and coordinate and minimize disruption as much as possible. But as you know, we have a fairly small construction window, and all of us try and do as much as we can when we can. So we do the best we can.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bill? Okay, is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to make public comment concerning this item? Hearing none, we'll close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion concerning the CARS 5-year plan as presented.
Mayor, I move that we approve the 5-year plan for CARS.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the CARS 5-year plan as presented. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Item C, consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for police department facility needs assessment.
Mayor, I'll take this one.
Okay, Nathan?
We are not at a point yet where we have a recommendation on a firm. However, we're getting close, and so this is just entirely up to the council to determine if they would like to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement when we have one that has been approved by legal. We do not have a draft at this time yet. Again, we're still waiting for Chief to tour some of the facilities. So this is an option that would allow us to get the ball rolling before the April City Council meeting, if that is something that the governing body is comfortable with. Otherwise, we'll just wait and bring you a contract or an agreement in April.
All right. Council, is there discussion concerning this item? Lee?
I'm just curious, if my memory's right, there was a fairly wide range of potential investment dollars between the 2 alternatives we were taking a look at, and I guess I'm just a little uncomfortable just saying let's go, given that window was so big. Are you guys comfortable that we'll land where we need to be?
I mean, between the chief and I, our goal is to get the lowest rate possible for it. So I think the lower range of the company, of the 2 ranges, I'm confident that we can be within the lower range regardless of the company we go with.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Jenna?
Yeah, just a question. Realistically, do you think that that this is going to get done before the April meeting?
I think, I mean, we're close. But again, it's just a matter of once we are ready to hit go, you know, in the RFQ that we've sent out, it had a specific timeline, I think within 3 months of the time we approve, they have to get the work done. So this is just an opportunity for us to maybe shave off a few weeks of time in between. But again, if it's not something that the council is comfortable with, we're more than happy to just wait and come back in April.
Are there specific concerns that any of the council members have?
Mayor, my concern was not the same as Lee's at the meeting. The high end of the low bid was the low end of the high bid, and between the two, there was a really wide range. I do trust the chief and Nathan to manage our funds wisely, as they always do, but you know, I think my concerns are mollified to the degree that you're going to try to get within the low bid range, even with the high bidder, work them down.
If we can't do that, we'll bring it back in April.
And trust me, if they can't do that, it will come back in April.
And I know you like to watch the bottom line
Yes,
too,
I
Mayor.
do. There will not be an issue with that. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion? Oops, hang on. Public comment. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to comment on this item? Nope. Okay, we'll close that. Is there a motion? Sherry?
I'll move that we consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for police department facility needs and assessment.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. All right, item D under new business. Consider ordinance number 1802, an ordinance amending the Fairway City Code pertaining to short-term rentals, Chapter 7, Article 4, Section 7 through 100. No, Section 7-100 through 7-121. Nathan?
Yes. So the Administration and Finance Committee has discussed the short-term rental regulations for the past 2 months at their monthly meeting. Obviously, we know there's been a lot of movement on this topic in other cities in the area, and it is a growing topic of interest nationally in terms of how cities are regulating short-term rentals. Just to be clear, Fairway has regulated short-term rentals for a very long time. We were very fortunate to get ahead of the curve on this with the regulations that we put in place several years ago. And having some residents express some concerns about some pockets of Airbnbs in the community. The Administration and Finance Committee, which is a committee of the whole, did review our current code at the first meeting, and then at the February 28th meeting discussed what was presented as a number of changes to further tighten regulations regarding short-term rentals in Fairway. And so just to highlight the additional regulations that the council is considering putting in place this evening, we would extend the duration of which the short-term rental could be. So you could no longer do a 1-night or 2-night rental of an Airbnb or any short-term rental in the city. It would be a minimum of 3 nights per booking. Short-term rentals would also be limited on parking. It would be prohibited in the street. There'd be a maximum of 3 vehicles that could be legally parked on the property, but they wouldn't be permitted to park in the street. In addition, there would be a prohibition on shuttle buses, party buses, and other similar commercial vehicles to pick up or drop off individuals from the property. The other significant change that I will mention is that we would be putting in a geographic boundary as well, so that there couldn't be no new short-term rental applications would be considered if they were within 1,000 feet of an existing short-term rental. It's important to note that like our occupational licenses for short-term rental licenses and rental licenses in general are not transferable. So as ownership changes, the license becomes void. And if the new owner would like to consider using the property as a short-term rental, if they're within 1,000 feet of one that already exists, they would be denied. So we, at our meeting in February, our city clerk, Abby Aldridge, prepared some maps that showed the short-term and long-term rentals within the city of Fairway. And so the information gleaned from that was really rentals, both short-term and long-term, are concentrated essentially in our Ward 4. If these changes are implemented, it would not, essentially, with the current map of licensed short-term rentals, it would effectively serve as a ban for Ward 4 until such time as fewer short-term rentals exist. So the committee did discuss a range of things, from leaving it alone with what we have on the books now to an outright ban on short-term rentals, and this was sort of the compromise that the committee reached at its last meeting. So with that, we did also require now that rather than having an owner's agent, if the owner doesn't live within Johnson County, historically they've had to have an agent live within the county. We're updating that to just within 50 miles of the property, just because there are a number of management companies that have their offices in Missouri, just on state line even. And so really we're just trying to be somewhat accommodating there. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think both of our committee of the whole meetings were very productive, and I thank the council members for that. It was good discussion. The additional restrictions that Nathan just outlined, I think are very solid and will help improve the situation that we've been hearing about from particularly Ward 4, but it's across the city. So I'm very pleased with what, thank you, Rich, with what legal and staff has condensed our conversations, and I think this is a very, very good resolution. So, questions for Nathan? David?
Not so much a question, just I want to express my appreciation for our city clerk, Abby Aldridge, and the maps that she drew, which might be helpful to publish or publicize for the residents, especially with regard to the 1,000-foot restriction. Based upon where the current short-term rental properties are, it's going to be virtually impossible to put in a new short-term rental in Fairway that doesn't violate that 1,000-foot space. There are places, but there aren't very many. And the other comment that I'd like to make, just so residents understand, certainly in Ward 4, the current short-term rentals would all violate the 1,000-foot regulation, but there's a concept called legal nonconforming, so we are not forcing those to close. But I want to make it clear, as Nathan indicated, if ownership does change, or someone just says, I'm not going to get a license this year, it'll be virtually impossible, I think actually impossible, for someone to put an Airbnb back into that house, or VRBO, any short-term rental, given the new 1,000-foot restriction. So it really sort of puts a cap on new short-term rentals until current ones go away. And that was, I think, a large tenor of our conversation. And I really did like Abby's maps. They were really very informative. So thank her again for that. And
I will do that. Yep. And just to be clear, there are very few short-term rental licensed properties in other parts of the city, so it wouldn't prohibit them from going in on those areas. But essentially, as you said, David, Ward 4 would have a moratorium until there has been a reduction.
Jenna?
I guess just so everyone's aware, short-term rentals are only. Yep. In terms of what is a short-term rental, we're keeping that at 30 days, so the long-term rentals won't be affected by this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll open the floor for public comment on Ordinance 1802. Is there anyone who would like to address this issue here in the audience or online? Yes, in the back row. You raised your hand first. if you'll please come forward, turn on the mic, and state your name and address, please.
Okay, great. My name's, is it on? Yeah. My name's Sandy Durick, D as in David, URICK, 6029 Delmar Street. And I would just really like to thank the mayor, the city council, especially Tanya and Jenna, Nathan, and pertinent staff, the city attorney, Mr. Cook, because I believe the proposed changes are going to strengthen the current restrictions of the short-term rentals, which I think is a plus for the city of Fairway, for the residents and the community. And I really appreciate all the time, effort, the thinking through, and the discussions, because I know this is a hot topic, as not to repeat everything that you all have said, but I think it's important to hear it from a resident. And I know that you've heard from me both email, on paper, at the rainy day gathering. Some of you, I kept it real brief though, because I didn't want to spoil the gathering there. But I just can't thank you enough, because I think that you're being proactive, and these tighter restrictions are just a plus for our city. And I just want to really thank you for that. So, golf clap when I used to teach. That's what I used to tell my students. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Is there anyone else in the blue jacket? You were second to raise your hand? Yes.
Hello, my name is David Blake. My address is 5410 Aberdeen Road. And I just had a question, or maybe just to clarify, Nathan. I have an existing short-term, rental license, or with the Fairway. Exactly what's going to be the reapplication process for people like ourselves? With this moratorium, like you're pausing that.
So the reapplication process won't change for any of the existing, with the exception that you'll obviously have to work within the new criteria in terms of the parking and the length of stay and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But if you have an existing license, you will be eligible to renew that license.
Okay, so essentially people, now what if, like in Ward 4, if there's currently 2 licensed within,
yep.
So that, just like Ward 4, will you have to wait for one of those to basically naturally change to reduce it down to just one within it? Like, how are you going to handle if I had a neighbor, for example?
Through natural change, so it'll be through property ownership change. Okay. Yep. So if your neighbor sells the house, their house, and you keep yours, if they're within 1,000 feet of yours, the new owners wouldn't be able to register that as a short-term rental.
The last house standing within 1,000 feet.
Correct.
Is the ultimate goal.
Yep.
And then also, I'm sorry, I wasn't part of any of these discussions previously. The 2 days versus a 3-day. So that, in my opinion, it severely limits these successive bookings, because you're forcing them to do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday booking, which is going to limit. A lot of people generally want just a Friday, Saturday booking when they come to visit Kansas City. I'd also like to say that the people who rent these short-term rentals are generally people who have family who live here, or people coming to experience Kansas City, relocating here. There's a lot of positive experiences from short-term rentals. All of our neighbors are more than happy with everybody that's ever stayed there. So I'd also like to, make sure that is said in public as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Your turn.
All right, my name is Drew Solitum, and I own the property at 6005 Alhambra Street in Fairway. I just want to make a couple points to you also. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I think, some of the stigma behind short-term rentals is that, they just come in, want to party and all that, but from a owner standpoint, the house that I bought, rehabbed, I spent $100,000 in it, so I absolutely do not want anybody to come in, party, go and then go home and leave me with a huge mess to clean up. And also, I don't want a bad reputation, because that does affect, your ability on Airbnb. So if there's parties, they'll completely shut down your listing. So it's me managing who's booking my Airbnb. If there's a threat of a party, then I say no. Even if they've already booked, I say no, we can't do that because I don't want that, again, in my house, in the city, the neighbors. I want to be respectful of the neighbors and all that. The other thing, I don't know what particular complaints have, but I guess I just wonder, have they been validated, or is it just, a complaint saying I don't like short-term rentals, and that's, a different kind of
To
story.
answer your question, yes, they've been validated,
Okay.
and police have been called. Thank you for being a responsible Airbnb owner.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, I just want to hear you all to hear it from the other side of it, because I totally get, the stigma. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. For me, I'm very, I guess I run a tight ship on who's renting my property as much as I can. And even during their stay, if it's, I live in Johnson County, so if, something seems kind of fishy, then I have the ability to drive over there and, check it out. And I communicate with my guests to make sure that, we're all on the same page. And generally, like the gentleman said before, people are coming in for weddings, families in there now for, visiting for spring breaks, visiting some of their family. So it's not, I wouldn't say this is necessarily like a party town compared to others, but I understand that parties, do happen here potentially. Like the other comment, I think a 2-day is probably more realistic than a 3-day, because 3 days, just like if you're coming in for the Chiefs game, or like I just mentioned, a graduation, a wedding, it's a little bit easier. I think we probably all take vacations where it's a 2-day or a 3-day vacation on a weekend. I don't quite understand the logic on the parking. To me, that's a little bit like if somebody just has some family members over for, an extended amount of time, like what's going to be that threshold, I guess, of parking on the street. My place has enough parking, but I could potentially see that, coming into some sort of effect, even though my neighbor actually parks in front of my property, which is a different story. The other thing I think of just when I think about this whole thing is just it feels like you're kind of taking away potentially dollars from Fairway, because now you're going to push them into other cities who may or may not have, the same restrictions, if that makes sense. And then I think lastly, just the fact that, short-term rentals always have gotten a bad rep. I'm here to represent that there's a good side to it too. And I rent whenever I travel for Airbnbs and stuff like that. And I mean, if I take my short-term rental and I take it into a long-term rental, that neighborhood might have a really long problem or really bad problem with a long-term tenant too. So you got to think about that. And that's going to be a lot harder to get people out too. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you all listening just to my points. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online, Nathan? Okay.
Mayor, before, just.
Yeah, council,
in
further discussion?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead,
in
David.
response to the last couple of comments, this is, it's interesting, when I was commenting before the meeting, we get a Kansas Government Journal every month, and one of the articles is on the challenges of balancing, of short-term rentals and balancing the right hand and the left hand. And at our meetings, it's also important to know that we were very sensitive to the economic impact also. So I think from a council perspective, don't come back again, and you don't have to come to a meeting, but email us, let us know how these restrictions impact you. I appreciate the fact that you're hopefully responsible owners, but we'd like to see that too, because that was one of the considerations we also balanced, of not making it so economically unfeasible that we shut off a revenue stream for you all completely. So it is a balancing act, and we'd like to hear back from you all too to see how this impacts. And I'd say there are a lot of things to do in Kansas City, and it'd be a hard time narrowing it down just to 2 days. So hopefully 3 days doesn't negatively impact you that much. They can all go down to the new wheel down there and just spin around for a day if nothing else.
But if it does, let us know. Anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion concerning this ordinance?
Mayor, I move to approve Ordinance 1802, amending Fairway City Code pertaining to short-term rentals, Chapter 7, Article 4, Sections 7 through 100 through 7 through 121.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance number 1802. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Final item under new business is E, consider sign deviation for temporary sign at 2820 West 53rd Street, Fairway, Kansas. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request for 2820 West 53rd Street, the former Hula Hands. The property manager has requested the ability to put up a sign, availability sign on the structure. Because it is a temporary sign and because of the size of it exceeding our limits that we have in the code, this did have to go before the Planning Commission and now is ultimately before the City Council for approval. Planning Commission, I believe, unanimously approved this sign for the space, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Nathan?
Yes.
Joe, go ahead.
Sorry to...
That's okay.
I know you guys have been back and forth with the broker on this thing, and I wonder, why is it taking them so long to apply for this when they could have done this years ago? It's a rhetorical question.
Thank you.
I wish we had an answer. Yeah, Lee?
So, and I think it's a partial answer. Finding a suitable tenant for this space has been a top priority of mine. I heard so much about it this summer. I've heard more about it since this summer. Unfortunately, the effort I put into it hasn't produced much thus far, but I will say that over the last 3 or so many years since COVID and since Hula Hands went out, there have been really substantive conversations with some real quality tenants, potential tenants, that have just ended for one reason or another, and you could they're all different, you know, that something changed with the company, their financing issues, whatever. So I applaud the notion of putting a sign up. I know it seems a little weird to put it up after all this time, but we need a tenant in that space. The mayor and the city administrator want a tenant. Our residents want a tenant. I can assure you the blocks want a tenant. So hopefully this is just one new step. It may not be a great step, but one new step toward coming up with a partnership that will locate a quality tenant, that will give us the gathering place that the residents in our community deserves, and we can move forward and fill that space.
Thank you for your comments, Lee. I will tell you that Nathan and I have worked on this for 4 years, continuously. And there have only been 3, Nathan, very serious opportunities. And 2 of those did not even make it to us because their financing fell through. The third one that did, we've met with Block and the party several times, and Nathan and I think it was a really good opportunity. So when the presentation came to us, and I'm going to be perfectly blunt here because that's just the way I am. The ask of both Block and the tenant was 100% financing. And my response was no. I said, go back and rework your numbers. The first presentation was $1 million ask, and they were including napkins, silverware, plates, the works for the making that space their restaurant. And I said, we are not going to fund 100%. We asked, that building is privately owned. we asked the investors, what are you going to contribute to this construction? Why are you asking the city for 100%? There was no answer. So they came back with another offer, and the offer went from $1 million to $1.2 million. And I just said, no, not going to happen. I said, we're interested in working with you on some of the other roadblocks, but I said, those are solvable. But to ask for a 100% financing, and we even gave them 2 or 3 alternatives to consider that were reasonable financing, because that's just the way transactions are these days. So, Lee, I applaud your efforts. I'm sorry you are hitting the same roadblocks that we did. We're not giving up. Nope. I'm glad to see that they're finally putting a sign up that people can read from Shawnee Mission Parkway. I mean, hopefully that will help. I want a restaurant there just as bad as all the other 4,000 residents in the city of Fairway. This is the first time I've gone on record giving specific details of to what our difficulties have been. It's not because we haven't tried, but I am not going to sell Fairway down the road either. Okay, that has nothing to do with the sign deviation, but I thought you needed to know what was going on. Are there any other questions for Nathan concerning the sign deviation? Okay. Public comment concerning this item? Anyone from the audience? Online? All right, we'll close public comment. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that we approve item E, the proposed sign deviation for a temporary sign at 2820 West 53rd Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the sign deviation for the temporary sign at 2820 West 53rd Street. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the governing body comment. During this time, members of the governing body will be given the opportunity to speak about matters related to the city. No formal action will be taken during this time. Anyone have anything? David?
Would it be inappropriate to say I was also hoping for like a spotlight and a searchlight at that to draw attention to the space?
No, I'll ask for that, but we'll see.
No, I do appreciate your comments in providing context for our residents that it hasn't been an appropriate ask on the owner-tenant side. I mean, when we've helped with various projects in the city, we've helped, but we haven't funded, and we really can't, as a public entity, divert tax dollars to finance a private enterprise. We can help, but we can't do it all. And so hopefully this is a good first sign or first step that we'll get a good proposal and we can all start enjoying that space again.
It'd be great. Anyone else? Okay, I will close the governing body comment. And finally on our agenda is public comment for items not listed on this evening's agenda. Anyone have anything they'd like to discuss? Okay. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's nice to have people in attendance.
I know.